all the railroads. We're still doing the BNSF, and then when we finish we'll do the Frisco, and then we'll start with the CN, which is kind of interesting how that was all formed. Anyway, so we went through the Santa Fe, the Q, with the CNS, and that got us into that coal discussion, and then the GN, the NP, and SP&S was 1970 with the BN.
Right.
Now we'll go through the freight stuff. They had standard cabooses, which the NP and Great Northern had the standard international car extended vision caboose. But anyway, so as I said, semi-autonomous subsidiary, they SP&S used all Alcos for their freight trains. And so this is an FA1, I believe. Maybe it's an FA2, I'm not sure. Anyway. And here's here it is in the old, sort of an NP passenger scheme. Here's some RS2s or 3s on a freight train. You can see it's an extra. They're back in probably in the 50s, and they're still running flags.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore, do they?
No, that with the warrants and everything, they don't need to do that. Then they modernized the scheme. They just basically filled in had a big band. That's much easier to paint than all the stripes and everything, and probably better visibility too, grade crossings. And so here's an example of a run-through train. Here's a SP&S Alco FA, and then a couple of NP, and this is before the merger. So, and a couple of NPF units on a run-through freight. So it was sort of a, kind of a mix. And the NP did have more Alcos than like the GN, but SP&S was all Alco. And so here we see an FA with a couple of, what are the 424s or 425s?
The first one's at 25 and the second one's at 24.
Okay, so they had both models. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So, but all Alcos, and not smoking too bad for the Alcos.
Yeah.
So here's a couple of them. Nice looking engine.
Yeah, again, a 425 and a 424. And the difference is over that radiator, the louvers, you see that bulge comes out and it's clearly delineated there. And on the 424, it's not. It's feathered into the car body.
Oh, they had to widen for the extra 100 horsepower. They had to widen the radiator a little bit.
Great.
Interesting. I did not know that. Interesting. So here's a couple of 636s that are along the. It's a beautiful, as you guys know, riding the train. It's a gorgeous going along the south bank of they're on the north bank of the Columbia River.
Yeah, he'd be on the north bank, so he's westbound.
Yeah. And but they I don't know how many 636s they got, but Craig, you said the 636s lasted a long time.
They did, it was kind of amazing. I don't think there were even 40 of them ever built. So it was a low production engine. Let's see here. I'll find out.
But apparently they finally got all the bugs out of the 251 and the other problems they were having, and so, but unfortunately it's too late. They'd already kind of burned their bridges with everybody.
Yeah, too bad. Alco Century 636. Let's see here. Only 63 of them produced.
Okay.
SP&S got 10 of them.
10 of them. Okay.
Oh yeah, 12 to Hammersley Iron and 17 to Mount Newman Mining. Okay. So, in Australia, so it knocks a chunk off the group there.
Yeah,
6 went to the Illinois Central, 15 to the Penn Central, and 10 to SP&S.
Okay. Then they bought some of these too, which is the Alco Century 415, which has the engine and the generator down in this end. And then the radiators over here. This is the engine air intake, and so they ran the cooling pipes underneath the cab, and then here's the auxiliaries, and so it enabled them to have almost a center cab, good visibility both ways, and they sold some of those. And then here's a train with 5 Alco RS3s, and then here's the Century 636. But in 1970, they finally were able to merge the Burlington, the Great Northern, Northern Pacific, and SP&S together. Jim Hill had tried to do it in around the turn of the century, in 1900. In fact, he put them all in the Northern Trust, but then the Teddy Roosevelt broke it up as he was breaking up big corporations like Standard Oil and stuff like that. So he broke up the Northern Trust. So, but 70 years later, they were able to do it. And
The
so,
Century 415, by the way, there were only 26 of them ever built, and they were in 3 different cab heights.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Now
There
this
you
would this must be the medium cab height.
that's
Then.
the medium, right? Yeah, there was one that was super low, and another that was super high.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So after the so the Alcos lasted quite a while into the merger. Here's this must be somewhere in Washington. Here's a it's an Alco, maybe it's a 636, might be, and an RS11.
That's an EMD. Look at the truck on it.
Oh, it is. You're right.
That's
Yep.
an EMD.
Oh yeah, it's got Spartan cab.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were mixing everything after the merger. So here's an RS11. Here's one of the Century 415s.
415, yeah.
And then here's
RS11.
RS11 and an NP RS11, and then a 425, I guess.
Yeah, and that's Portland.
Yeah, that's Portland.
Yeah.
And there's an SP&S, former SP&S Century 636.
There's one still running on the Delaware Lackawanna.
Wow. Well, that's a good engine.
Yeah.
The SP&S, the line that they built from Spokane down to, in fact, the whole SP&S line was built much later than the NP, and so it was more modern construction, low grades, wide curves and stuff like that. But unfortunately, as our resident expert told us, here's a section of it. Very nice grades, big cuts, stuff like that. But up in the northern part, that's quite wet. Apparently, they had terrible drainage problems. So they ended up abandoning this section of the SP&S, and they went back to use the old NP.
Really? Okay.
So yeah, it was interesting. They took the modern part, and now further down, this part is pretty amazing. They have big long trestles as they go across these buttes and stuff like that, and cuts and stuff like that. So the grades are really quite nice, low grades. But anyway, now it's all part of the BNSF.